Hi, this is Mrs. Hall, and this is Lesson 1-1. What is psychology? Before we begin, I would like for you to just think to yourself, what is psychology? When you think of the word psychology, what do you think of? Literally, when we break the word psychology down, it breaks up into two words. Literally, the word psychology means psyche, which means the mind, and logia, which means the study of. So literally, the word psychology means the study of the mind. That's where psychology began in 1879. We wanted to know, how does the mind work? Over time, psychology has evolved into a broader study, and we have made it into more of a scientific study. Again, it's an ology, just like biology, physiology, things like those are sciences. We're considered a social science. And so psychology today is defined as the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. And we're going to break that definition down right now. Before we go any further, I'd like for you to think about what is behavior and what are some examples of behavior. When we look at the word behavior, we're talking about things that we can observe and things that we can measure. Yes, they're things that we do, but they're things that we can see externally, and they're things that we can measure the number of times we see it. So we have some examples here. In the upper right-hand corner, we have a dog shaking. That's a behavior. We can observe it, we can measure it. The bottom right picture shows a classroom of students raising their hand. That's a behavior. We can see it, we can measure it. How many students are raising their hand? How long are they raising their hand? And thirdly, on the left side of the screen, you'll see a group of children who are smiling. Smiling is a behavior. We can measure a smile by how long it lasts, or we could measure it by the width of it. Now I'd like for you to think about, what's a mental process? When you think about mental processes, what do you think of? And what are some examples? Mental processes are simply things in the mind. They're things that we can't see and we can't observe. Things like thinking, memory, anything that's cognitive in nature, anything that takes place in the mind and can't be seen outside of the mind would be considered a mental process. Before we go any further in our study of psychology, we really do need to talk about what psychologists do and what their goals are. What's the purpose of studying behavior and mental processes? Psychologists have 4 goals, and you read about these in your text. The first goal is to describe behavior. What are the things that they're seeing? What kinds of things are happening? Then they want to explain why that behavior is occurring. There could be multiple explanations as to why something is happening. Thirdly, they want to predict what behaviors will occur in certain situations. What kinds of things will happen if we're in this particular kind of an environment? And finally, the ultimate goal of psychologists is to attempt to control or change behaviors for the better. We all want to be happy in our lives, and psychologists are working to find ways to change behaviors for the better. We use the word control behavior, but we don't mean that in the sense of controlling people the way you might feel controlled by your parents or your teachers. We're just talking about changing the behaviors for the better. And that concludes our first lesson in psychology. It's very introductory. And make sure that you write down any questions that you have. I look forward to seeing you in class soon.